Hi, I'm Dan Gable with Shore Murphy and Associates of Casey, and this is another episode of Big Agent in a Small Town. Starting a new electrical contracting business is something very exciting. Obviously, a lot of planning goes into starting a new business, and budgeting is a big part of that. So I wanted to outline in kind of some of the general insurance expenses that you're looking at if you're going to be opening a new electrical contracting business. The first coverage is general liability, which is going to cover bodily claims for bodily injury or property damage resulting from negligent acts. And with contractors, general liability is based on payroll. So I've got rough figures for a one-man operation starting up, and then what it would look like with one employee as well too. So on a one-person operation, and general liability starting out would be between about $750 to $1,200 a year. With one employee, depending on what the payroll is for that employee, you'd be looking at a total of $1,500 to $2,000 for general liability in that situation. One of the things excluded in general liability is what's called coverage for your work. And that can be picked up by what's called contractor's E&O or professional liability, which more and more standard companies are offering. If you wanted to include that coverage as well too, depending on payroll and your coverage limit, that's about an extra $100 to $500 a year, depending on those factors as well. Next would be inland marine. Mainly, that's going to be coverage for or small tools, things like that. Possibly property you're going to be installing as well too. You're going to be looking at around $250 to $400 or for inland marine coverage for the small tools and possibly property you're installing. Next up, you may or may not have commercial property to insure, or this would mainly be if you had an office or storage building or something like that that you owned that you needed to insure. Or if you do need commercial property coverage, that's going to be probably $1,000 to $2,000, depending on the size of the building and how much property and those kind of things. Next up is commercial auto, and the commercial auto policy to cover liability and comprehensive and collision for a light truck or cargo van. You'd be looking at about $800 to $1,200 for each vehicle, somewhere in there. Workers' comp is what's going to provide coverage for your employees if they are injured while working. Workers' comp, like general liability, is based on payroll as well too. Depending on your payroll, here in Illinois, where workers' comp rates are higher, you'll be looking at about $2,000 to $3,000 a year, depending on what your actual payroll was. Lastly, you'd want to consider a commercial umbrella policy as well too. What that does, it provides an extra layer of liability over your general liability, auto liability, and employer's liability on your workers' comp policy. For $1 million umbrella limit, you'd be looking at $500 to $1,000 a year for that as well too. These are some rough numbers. If you're starting a new business and want to get numbers for the right coverage for your business and specific to you, please reach out to me by phone or text at 217-932-2267 or by email to Dan, D-A-N, at shoremurphycasey, SHOREMURPHYCASEY.com. Thank you.